Okay, everybody, let me talk about this project. Okay, so first of all, you read this requirements, right? It asks you to write two classes, sphere and multisphere. So some of you wrote just one class. That doesn't work. You need to follow the instructions, and that's very, very important. So write two classes, and then I added some. You must have two constructors. One accepts nothing, and the other a constructor that accepts parameters, not an constructor, but a constructor. And you must have access to mutator methods and toString, right? You must test all methods. Okay, that's very important. You need to test all of them. So let's look at how this should be done. I take one student's work and then I make a little bit of modification to just make sure it's perfect. Okay, so if you look at this, this is public class sphere. And some of you did not have the private. You did that. That's not okay. Remember, your instance variable always has to be private. Otherwise, it can be accessed directly by name from the outside. So this is the default constructor, the empty parameter constructor. Okay, you don't accept anything, but you still need to initialize this instance variable. So when you create an object with no parameter, you still have a value for diameter. For your instance variable, you only need to have this one instance variable. The volume, the surface area, they are not instance variables because they are derived attributes, because you can calculate that from diameter. So that's why you should not designate them as the instance variable. Okay, and this is the overloaded constructor. You need to assign the new value to this, right? Okay, and set diameter, this you have no problem. And get diameter, you have no problem. Calculate volume, some of you did calculate, you did what, set volume. That's not a good name. You always use set and get for instance variables. For all others, you don't use set or get. You use other words, because as soon as people see set and get, they think of it as an instance variable method. So that's one thing. Another thing is this needs to be 4.0 divided by 3. You need to make it a double. 4 divided by 3 will give you 1. That doesn't work. 4.0 divided by 3 will give you 1.333. Okay, so that's the difference. And this is how you calculate the surface area. That's correct. And this is the toString method. For the toString method, some of you added the volume and the surface area. You do not need to do that. You shouldn't do that, because your toString, remember, only need to return the value of the instance variable. Your toString method only returns a concatenated string representation of all the instance variables. So you do not need to add the volume and area to it. That is not part of the basic part of the object. Okay, so this is the sphere class. Now let's look at the multisphere method class. Okay, so this is the multisphere. I ask you to declare at least two objects. So here I made it two objects. One tests the empty parameter constructor. One tests the constructor that accepts a parameter. And then I use these words, these system.out.println statements to document what is being done. So testing the toString method, you simply print out the object, right? And then you test the get diameter method. So you calculate, you get the diameter and print it out. Some students did this, sphere1 dot get diameter. This does not do anything. This is a meaningless statement because get diameter returns a value. And here you are not capturing that value. You're just calling it. So what does it do? It does nothing. It executes, but you're not getting the value. So it's meaningless. Okay, this is the correct way to test it. Either you assign this call to a method, to a variable, or you print it out. So this is testing the get diameter method, and then testing the set diameter method. This one, you simply call it like this because this does not return any value. It simply changes and it returns void. If you look at this, right? It doesn't return anything versus this one, it returns a double. So that's the difference. And then after you set the diameter, you want to test the toString method again to see the difference. So that's what this is. This is testing the toString again. And then we test the volume method, okay? This returns a value, so you print it out. And sphere one, the area method. So that's the first sphere, that's the first object. Now let's test the second one, toString, and then get diameter, and then change the diameter and test the toString to see the changes. And then just do the volume method. So this is how you do this. Let's run. Okay, so if you look at this, testing the toString method, because remember it's empty parameter, so everything is 0, right? This is empty parameter. And when it's empty, you have this, it's 0 right here, right? So that's why if you look at this, it's like that. Okay, let me move this up. And so now we get the diameter method, it shows 0.0. Now let's test the set diameter method. We call the method, and then you print it, you call the toString method again, and it is showing the new parameter. And that's the volume, that's the surface area, and the toString for sphere 2, and get and set, and volume and surface area. So this would be a good testing. You are testing all the methods. So whatever method you have here, 2 constructors, you need to test them, set, get, volume, and area, and toString. And if you look here, we tested all of them, right? The 2 constructors and all the other methods. So that's how this is done, everybody. Okay, I'm going to stop here.